Have you ever wondered why some women live alone? No boyfriend, no partner, not even looking. It's not loneliness. It's not a lack of options. It's not heartbreak. It's something deeper, something more unsettling, something that breaks every rule we were taught about a woman's place in the world. Because when a woman chooses solitude, she's not getting lost. She's finally finding herself. That kind of self-discovery doesn't come with applause, likes, or companionship. It comes with silence, with strength, with a kind of freedom most people still don't understand. No, she's not lonely. She's selective. She's not cold. She's tired of burning for people who never cared to feel the warmth. There's something deeply threatening about a woman who doesn't need a relationship to feel whole. Because that disrupts control. Control. That dismantles the myth of emotional dependency. That reveals an uncomfortable truth. Most men don't know what to do with a woman who doesn't need saving. And most women are still learning how to stand in the mirror of that power and say, I am enough. These women, they are reflections of the collective shadow. They are what many dream of becoming, but few have the courage to embody. She doesn't scream for love. She whispers her boundaries. She doesn't dress for the male gaze. She retreats to preserve herself. She's not chasing a prince. She's protecting her peace, and that, in a world that tells women to hurry into love, is revolutionary. Maturity over performance. She's lived the chaos, loved until she disappeared, given until it hurt, begged for crumbs she never should have accepted, and then, slowly, she woke up. The pain stopped hurting. It started teaching. What you see now isn't coldness, it's emotional maturity. And maturity is intimidating. It asks for presence, for honesty, for depth. She doesn't want promises. She wants presence, not attention, but reciprocity. She doesn't need to be rescued. She wants to be seen. Her no is sacred when she says no. It's not a test, it's truth. When she walks away, it's not drama, it's self-respect. When she stays in instead of entertaining the shallow, it's not arrogance, it's clarity. She doesn't live to please, she lives to be. And that simple act, being, is her greatest revolution. Solitude, not absence. She still wants love, real love. But not if it means losing herself. It's a sanctuary. She's not isolating. She's preserving, not hiding, healing. She knows now. True love doesn't cage. It doesn't manipulate or demand. It doesn't dim the light just to feel brighter. She's not waiting to be completed. She wants to overflow with someone who's done their inner work too. And until that person arrives, she walks alone, not in loneliness, but in integrity. Revolutionary womanhood. She is the new archetype, not a damsel, not a prize, not a woman defined by someone else's gaze. She is her own revolution. She broke the cycles, faced the pain, refused the roles. Now she walks in truth. And that truth is a mirror, reflecting back everything society tries to silence. Closing truth. She doesn't need validation. She doesn't crave approval. She simply is. And that is enough. The love she's waiting for, it's not a rescue, it's a celebration. It won't come to fix her, it will come to meet her fully. And if that love hasn't come yet, maybe it's because she first needed to become the woman who no longer accepts less than she deserves. Final note: if something inside you stirred reading this, maybe it's because you're ready too. Ready to stop shrinking, ready to stop settling, ready to meet yourself. Because the most important relationship of your life will always be the one you have with yourself. And when that becomes whole, everything changes. There's a long-standing myth in many cultures, one that quietly whispers, sometimes even shouts, that a woman is only complete when she is with a man. That without a romantic partner, a woman is somehow lacking, unfinished, or waiting for her other half. But the truth, often quietly lived rather than loudly declared, is very different. Women who live alone are often among the most whole people you will ever meet. Not because they have rejected love, but because they have walked a path that demands they meet themselves fully. In solitude, there is no one to project dreams onto, no one to lean on by default, no distractions from the mirror of the self. And in this mirror, these women are not searching for someone to complete them. They are learning to see that they were never incomplete to begin with. They begin to embody qualities traditionally considered masculine: decisiveness, independence, assertiveness, alongside the traditionally feminine traits of empathy, receptivity, and care. In this integration, they do not lose their essence, they expand it. They become both anchor and sail, foundation and flame. Living alone doesn't mean being alone in the psychological sense. It means a woman has learned to hold her own center. She becomes self-sourcing, not in denial of connection, but no longer in need of it to feel whole. The inner partner, when a woman lives alone, society often assumes she is missing something. Most often, a man to protect her, to guide decisions, to offer emotional and physical presence. But what goes unseen, and often unspoken, is the powerful transformation that takes place within her. She doesn't merely replace the man, she internalizes what he symbolizes. She awakens what we might call the inner partner. This inner partner is not imaginary. It's a very real psychological structure, a synthesis of traits that many are taught to seek externally. He is her voice of reason in chaos, her protector in moments of vulnerability, her challenger when she hesitates to grow. He is not a fantasy, he is a function, one that was dormant or underdeveloped in the presence of dependence. In solitude, he begins to speak. The woman who lives alone slowly, often through trial and silence, begins to develop the courage to speak her truth without needing it validated. She makes decisions without deferring them. She sets boundaries not from fear, but from clarity. And most importantly, she learns to meet her own emotional depths, not bypassing the ache of loneliness, but learning to carry it with grace, as one might carry a lantern in the dark. This integration of the inner partner allows her to walk through the world with a kind of solidity that doesn't seek constant reassurance. She does not wait for someone to unlock her potential. She builds the key herself. Freedom to self-actualize. One of the most misunderstood truths about women who live alone is that their solitude is often not about isolation. It's about expansion. It's about the sacred space that opens up when a woman steps outside the noise of roles she's expected to play. Wife, girlfriend, caretaker, supporter, mirror to someone else's dreams. When these expectations fall silent, she begins to hear something else, her own voice. In the quiet of her own home, with no one to perform for, no one to constantly negotiate with, she discovers what she genuinely wants, not what she was trained to desire. She experiments, she creates, she changes her mind, she deepens. There's room for her to question inherited beliefs and discard the ones that don't fit. She learns to value her instincts over external approval, to define success on her own terms, to be ambitious without apology and soft without shame. The freedom from traditional partnership doesn't always come easy, but it often brings with it a kind of raw authenticity that is rarely possible when a life is shared too early or too unconsciously. She begins to live for something other than being chosen. She begins to choose herself, not in a gesture of rebellion, but in a deeper act of recognition. Her time becomes hers. Her energy is no longer split between suppressing her nature and serving someone else's vision. And in this clear, often hard-won space, she begins to unfold, not as a half waiting to be made whole, but as a whole becoming more fully herself. Shadow and light. To live alone is not simply to enjoy peace and privacy. It is to come face to face with oneself. Not just the curated self presented to the world, but the hidden one, the shadow that emerges in silence. For many women, solitude is not a retreat from life, but an initiation into deeper layers of it. And with this comes both the light of clarity and the darkness of inner reckoning. There are nights when the silence feels like a weight, when the absence of another voice in the room becomes a kind of echo. Old fears rise, of abandonment, of invisibility, of being forgotten or unloved. These moments are not signs of weakness, they are invitations. In solitude, these women are asked to sit with the parts of themselves they were once too busy or distracted to acknowledge. The unmet desires, the unresolved griefs, the hunger for connection, the wounds of childhood that still whisper in the background. But here's what happens in that confrontation. The woman does not break, she reveals. She begins to integrate what was hidden. She learns that vulnerability is not something to be fixed, but something to be honored. She faces her doubts without immediately seeking to escape them through company or validation. She learns to witness her own emotional storms and survive them, not untouched, but transformed. And through that process, a deeper light begins to emerge, a kind of calm that is earned, not given. A strength that is not loud, but steady. She no longer fears her darkness because she has walked through it. And in doing so, she becomes less fragmented, less at war within herself. A new kind of strength, choosing to live alone, is often misunderstood as loneliness or even failure to find a partner. But what it really reveals is a profound kind of strength, one that is quietly revolutionary in a world that often equates power with partnership or social validation. This strength is not about proving something to others. It is about knowing one's own worth deeply and living in alignment with it. This strength comes from making conscious choices rather than following prescribed paths. It is the courage to say no to expectations that feel limiting or false, and yes to an uncertain, sometimes challenging, but authentic way of being. It is the power to hold space for oneself without fear or apology. Women who live alone develop resilience not by avoiding hardship, but by facing it head on and learning to trust their own capacity to endure and grow and grow. This strength is also about freedom. Freedom from the need to define oneself through the eyes of another, freedom from compromises that dilute one's identity, and freedom to pursue passions and dreams on one's own terms. It is a strength built not on isolation, but on self-reliance, self-respect, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are enough, not in spite of being alone, but because of the journey that brought you there.